Happy Friday, everyone. This is 60 Grit coming to you. We got a Galaxy S24 Ultra that we're going to do an open box on. This is going to be the titanium violet color. They have a bunch of different colors. But before I get started, if you could, just go and click subscribe down there on the screen. We're trying to get those numbers up, get the message out there. Again, I just give honest opinions, raw. My videos are nowhere near as classy or as flashy as some of the other people, but again, that's why I'm 60 Grit, because it's just, you get what you get. When I messed up, guess what? I don't do a retake. But anyway, so this came in, the Galaxy S24 Ultra. Again, this is titanium violet. If you go out to Samsung's website, they got multiple different colors you can choose from. This one is going to be the 512 version along the lines, but let's open it up. All these boxes, everybody. It's funny, I'm on these forums, I'm on the Pixel, I'm part of the Pixel community out there that you got, I guess, invitation from, originally from Google. I think you can get on any other ways. And it's funny how people complain about, I want a nicer box, I want the presentation. Hey, you know what I want? I want a cheaper phone. So if you can make a cheaper box, but give me a better phone at a better price, that's what I prefer. But hey, I don't know what you prefer, but cheaper is better with better technology. So let's go and get started in this. This is, it's a black box. I don't know what else to say besides it is a black box. This is gonna be, it is kind of in there. Like, they do definitely know how to pack. Yeah, in the box, you got the phone. And then let's see what we got in here. There we go. We got we still use these for some reason. I didn't get it. If you go outside the US, these are great and handy. We got a seal removal. We have our paper. Here's our quick start guide, because if you need this, you probably shouldn't be having a smartphone. They do still make flip phones for you, and along those lines, I'm just joking. Don't ever take anything too serious, I said. Yeah, quick guide going. Got your USB-C cable, which now everybody's onto that. And then you got this phone, and let's see what we got here. So if you can see, it looks kind of dark. There you go. We got it's the purple. Again, along the lines. So try to turn on a light real quick to see if that helps you out along those lines. So what is in this phone? Let's see. Let's get this bad boy turned on. So on this phone, you have in here running it is going to be the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. Yeah, it's not turning off for some reason. Come on, baby. Maybe it's dead. You got multiple options for storage. You got the 256 gig, 512, and 1 terabyte. This would be one of the largest batteries that's actually in a smartphone from when you start looking at Samsung, Google, iPhone. The iPhone of this size actually is just a tad bigger. It's 5,050 milliamps. I'm sorry, the 8 Pro has a bigger battery, which is 5,050 milliamps. The 15 Pro Max has a 4422, and this one's going to come in at a 5,000 on that. Again, this is going with the Qualcomm. Why Google makes their own proc. Of course, Apple makes their own proc. This will be more in line with some of the other vendors that are out there that's doing that. The screen's going to be a 6.8 inch screen. So this screen is actually going to be larger than your Pixel 8 Pro. It's actually a little bit larger than your iPhone 15 Pro Max. Both those come in at 6.7 ratio. You start looking at the refresh rate. This is an AMOLED. Why you look at the Pixels, LTPO OLED, and then you got the Super Retina XDR with the iPhone. You got the 120 hertz refresh rate on here, and you got 2600 nits. And what nits are is, as you see this brightness, and because I think starting, usually just go down and you can actually see it. But the nits are when you're outside, and it's hard to see your phone, it's because, you know, that's a big thing right there, is because of the nits. And so we start comparing like, hey, how many nits does this have? Compare. So this is definitely a higher nit. If you think of the 8 Pro, the Pixel 8 Pro, that's maxing out at 2400 nits. And then the iPhone is 2000 nits. So when you start looking for the brightest, this should be one of your brightest phones out there on the market today. And 600 more nits is a lot brighter. I wish I had another phone we could do a comparison, but I really need to get it set up so I can scroll it down and raise it up on that. And then on the back here, you got multiple camera options on here. You got 200 megapixel wide, you got 12 megapixel ultra wide, you got 50 megapixel tele 5x optical. You also have something on this phone that actually they're calling 100 times space zoom. You know, Samsung does take pretty good photos if you compare some of the other cameras from some of the other generations. They are up there. When you start looking like, okay, megapixels, okay, this is 200 megapixel wide. Well, you know, the iPhone 15 Pro Max is a 48 megapixel from their main, and then you got a 50 megapixel octa from the Pixel 8 Pro. Now, you may be thinking, oh my gosh, this thing has 200 megapixels. This thing is going to blow everything out of the water. You know, megapixels are, if you're into photography at all, it is getting ridiculous. Like, depending on what you're actually doing, do you really need more megapixels? It have to do with, are you blowing up the pictures? How big you make your pictures? You know, you're looking for some of the things. At some point, that number becomes a marketing number to make you feel like you're getting more dollars spent and feel like you're getting something, when really you're getting something that, like, okay, do you really need 200 megapixel? Honestly, I'm going to say no. In fact, when you start looking at DSLRs, which these are what photographers use to make their living on in sports and everything, we're looking at 40-ish range for those. Some of them are shooting in the 24s, depending on if you're doing mirror or mirrorless, or if you're doing mirrorless or mirror. So when you start thinking, oh my gosh, it has 200 megapixel, this thing's gonna blow out. No, it's not. And there's no phone that's ever gonna blow out a true camera. Can you take a great picture? Yes, you can. Is it a great option for you to have in your pocket? So when you go on vacations or you go and do something, you're at an event, it is. And you can get some great pictures from these phones. But if you're a true photographer, this is never going to replace a true DSLR type camera that you're doing. And those will always outshine any kind of phone. But again, a phone is not made to replace. You're never going to see somebody when you're watching sports and they'll be out there with their phone zooming in like, oh, look at that. Yes, Tyreek Hill just caught a touchdown. I got it on my phone. No, it doesn't really happen that way. They're always going to use bigger cameras, bigger lenses, and there's a lot of reasons behind that, but I won't get into it. But this does have a 200 megapixel wide, as I mentioned, 12 megapixel ultra wide, a 50 megapixel, and then the front camera here is going to be 12 megapixel, which is actually on par. Now, that is one thing that I would love to see more on phones is, at this point, I think they're just throwing bigger numbers in there, make us feel like we're getting more than what we want, when in reality is, the more they can do to update this, because there's a lot of people take selfies, and selfies could benefit from a higher, if we can get this thing up more, you know, like in the 20-ish range, that you will see improvements by doing that. And I get it, there's only so much you can jam in this tight config, but, you know, at the end of the day, kind of is what it is, right? But again, this is the Samsung S24 Ultra, violet purple, which I actually like this purple, along those lines. And like I said, the phone is, I'm not a big Samsung lover, and it goes to the bloatware. And I have had some comments of, they've changed a lot. Yes, they have. And yes, they're getting closer to what I would want, but I like raw. I came from an iPhone 15 Pro. I came from multiple iPhone generations. I'm not an iPhone lover. I love Android too. But I do love that raw. I don't want a bunch of bloatware installed on. And yes, you can uninstall some bloatware on here. We all know that. But there's some things you cannot. And let's just pick on Bixby. You know, all your AI companies out there, you cannot argue that Google has some of the best AI. And Hey Google is going to be so much far better than Bixby. So why have Bixby? Sorry, Pixel tablet just had to jump in on that because I said those magic words, and she's like, hey, what do you need? And you could turn Bixby off, but let's be honest, it still runs in the background, and that's annoying. Samsung needs to make a phone where I can delete everything Samsung is off of this phone, where I can use whatever I want. And I would actually like their phones, because when you start looking at hardware specs and you start comparing this to your iPhone, Samsung is on par, if not better, than a lot of times the iPhone community. Pixels, last Pixel, if you listen to my review, you can go back and do it. That's the first time Pixel 8 Pro actually kicked the butt out of iPhone on specs for a system. So things are changing. But yeah, I don't like the bloatware. But hey, if you love it and this phone you love, and I actually am going to try to play with this phone and see if what's going to go on with it, then you should use it. Again, I support whatever you want to use. If I say something to offend you, I'm sorry. I'm just talking the truth. I'm talking a lot of my experience, my feelings too. So if you have a different experience, a different feeling, hey, that's great, because me hating bloatware, you may not mind it. Something that shows a little bit of lag for me, you may not see that same lag. And that's okay. Like they say, run your race, not mine. And I will run my race and not yours. At the end of the day, we can get to the finish line whenever we get there. And we can talk about the differences. But at the end of the day, we both have the right to have our differences. And that's what I talk about, is the differences of my experience of things I don't like. But here you go. S24 Ultra, titanium violet, slick phone. Definitely has a nice feel. Bigger screen, and like I said, you can't beat the specs on Samsung. They do great. But anyways, this is 60 Grid. I will ask you one more time, please click subscribe. Before you click off, if you're even at the end of this video, please click subscribe, join my community. Let's get more words out there. I can never be bought by anybody. Nobody will ever send me stuff or pay, and I will not take any kind of payment from any vendor ever. So let's go from there. If I don't talk to you again, have a great weekend. Thanks.